Hello, good morning. Welcome to my channel. My name is J. Gardy Bruno, and I'm honored for the opportunity to come into your home today to talk to you about a topic that is very important. In fact, it is affecting every community, race, or social group. It is depression. What I'm about to share with you today is the result of a book that I've recently published under the title Grumblings of the Soul. This book can be found on grumblingofthesoul.com or Amazon or Barnes and Noble. You can find a copy there. What is the origin of depression? Where did it come from? Well, depression was not originally called depression. It was called melancholy. It appeared around the second millennium in ancient Mesopotamia, where Turkey now is, Iraq, Syria, and Kuwait are now. At that time in Mesopotamia, all mental illnesses were attributed to demonic possession and were referred to a priest for exorcism. And how did they treat them? Well, the technique they involved for treatment would involve beating, starvation, restraining, and they believed that the pain or the injuries were being inflicted to the demon, not the person. Many cultures share this belief, like Greece, Egypt, Babylon, Rome, China, also believe that. They suggested that to beat the person, to drive the demons out. They will deprive the person of food and to try to cast the evil spirit out. They called it melancholy, as I told you. The word depression did not exist then because they didn't know it was depression. Later, Hippocrates, a Greek physician, disagreed with the idea of the evil spirit. Now, he said it is rather the liquid in the patient, that is out of balance. And the best cure to him was to purge the persons of this liquid or balance the liquid in the persons. How will he do that? Well, he will cut the person, make the person bleed, put the person on a forced diet, or bathe the person to balance the fluid, and have him exercise a lot. Now, this is what Hippocrates came up with. So there was many techniques that they came up with to try to balance, to help that person who seemingly believe were possessed with evil spirit. Now, closer to us, at the end of the 18th century, to the beginning of the 19th century, in 1789 in Europe, there was a political and cultural pressure that gave birth to social political reform that changed the culture. Now, this cultural pressure was so strong that it almost completely reversed the neoclassicism of the 18th century. What I mean by neoclassicism, I'm talking about an era when a large number of artists, scholars, scientists across Europe took inspiration from history and material remains of classical antiquity. I'm talking about Greece and Rome. Now, this cultural revolution reversed, as I told you, reversed the emphasis that once was on the antiquity to replace it with reason. Tradition was replaced with imagination and emotion. Now, melancholy, passion, etc., are the new form of inspiration, and they also give it a name. It was called the Romantic movement. Well, better yet, we can say Romanticism. It was a literary philosophical movement started in the 18th century that stood against the neoclassicism, against the antiquity, now based on the own self, emotions, and appreciation of the external nature. During that period, though, a person would become depressed, profoundly discouraged, and sad without any apparent reason. Now, please understand that the person affected is sad but is not able to explain the reason of that sadness. One great philosopher who was the protagonist of this movement was Chateaubriand. He hated life. In one of his writings, he said, "This hatred of life that I felt since my early years became stronger. I fought for some time against this evil, but indifferently, without a strong resolution to win. Now unable to find a remedy to that strange wound of my heart that was anywhere and everywhere, I decided to give up life." Well, he did not commit suicide. In fact, he wrote another book titled Memory Beyond Grave, where he claimed that his brother, two sisters, uncle had a sad death. He said that literature brought him pain and sorrow and hope to finish life in a poorhouse. The writing, as you see, was tainted with sadness and grief. The author saw life as a burden or a painful pilgrimage that is accepted as a fate. Believe it or not, that person was the father of French Romanticism. Not just because of his classic description of nature, but his analysis made him the model for a generation of romantic writers in France and abroad. Another one that worth mentioning was Alfred de Musset. In one of his sonnets, it's called Sadness, he wrote, I have lost my friends, my life, my joy. The only thing that remains for me to in life is to have shed tears. To him, shedding tears was like a place of refuge, a place of where he can hide after having lost everything. That time of disillusionment and melancholy experienced by young adults of that time was nicknamed le mal du siècle, sickness of the century. Loneliness was a necessity. Everyone had something sad to say in his writing. They even romanticized tuberculosis. Now, prior to the advancement in medicine, the pale, slender figure that were caused by tuberculosis were highly desirable features. Everyone was in a self-inflicted quarantine where tears were the only confidant. That state of mind was affecting every community without any apparent stressor to justify it. The depression that people were experiencing was not caused by psychotic or psychoneurotic disorder that we know it to be today. There was no disconnection from reality or delusions in the life of the affected individual. In fact, the initiators were philosophers, intellectuals, members of French Academy, and the like. The reverence of the outward manifestation of tuberculosis and its association with the poetic and aesthetic meant that tuberculosis was revered rather than feared. It was called the Age of Reason or Philosophy of Enlightenment. They rejected the authority of the Catholic Church and promoted a new society based on emotion. There was an alienation from the world. Le mal du siècle was mostly affecting the male segment of the population. By the mid-19th century, it had become a way of life. It is now present not only in the mode of the culture, but also idealized in the literature. We'll stop the video here, and in our next video, we'll talk to you about our 21st century. How did depression enter the 21st century? And how is it affecting our communities? Until then, you have a good night. Don't forget to like this video. Good night.